our today's session on using the network for modernizing a network for smart manufacturing. You may not realize, but the network plays a very essential role in your manufacturing operations, especially, and it can elevate your manufacturing to smart initiatives, as well as help you along your Industry 4.0 initiatives as well. So today, I'm really happy to welcome an expert group of people who have joined me here. They are really experts in the field. They work with a lot of manufacturers in their day-to-day jobs. They know what manufacturers are doing, how they are using their network, how they are setting up their network for getting the maximum benefit for the manufacturing operation. So I'd like to start, ask them to introduce themselves really quick. Erica, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Thanks, Vivek. So my name is Erica Franco. I'm a technical leader on the IoT solution group. I design architectures for industrial automation network and lead the team that does the end-to-end validation. What I bring to this panel is my technical and hands-on experience.
Thank you, Erica. Carlos?
Vivek, yeah, my name is Carlos Rojas. I lead global industry solutions for Cisco's manufacturing practice. And in my role, I bring about 17 years of experience inside Cisco, helping customers worldwide with their factory networks. And prior to that, I ran manufacturing companies for 21 years.
David?
Sure. Thank you, Vivek. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. David Gutschall, part of our industrial IoT and security sales team, focused solely on manufacturing customers, covered manufacturing exclusively for 7 of my 8 years. And then prior to Cisco, 20 years as a practitioner, about 2/3 on the IT network engineering side and 1/3 on the process automation and engineering side. So great to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Paul?
Hello, everyone. Paul Didier. I'm a solution architect, solution leader in our industrial IoT business unit, the ones that bring you the industrial switches, routers, APs, and industrial cybersecurity. As a solution architect, I talk to lots of customers about how to deploy Cisco networking and cybersecurity in production environments, and very close to the industrial automation ecosystem.
Perfect. And hello again, everybody. And I am Vivek Bhargava. My name is not here, but I also work in the Cisco Industrial IoT business unit in product marketing. And we have a very exciting agenda for you today. The way we are going to work this panel discussion / webinar is not to take you through many different slides and bore you to death, but what we're going to do is I'm going to set up some questions for our panelists to discuss. And, we will spend about 5-6 minutes on each of these topics. And some of the topics are listed here. We'll start first with smart manufacturing opportunities and challenges. We'll discuss what's possible and what are the challenges in getting where you want to be. We'll discuss what the characteristics of a foundational network should be, how you should protect your manufacturing operations as you are gearing up and introducing more digitization in them. And then, of course, the topic about leveraging, how do you leverage cloud applications best? As you know, we have all these analytical applications in the cloud, but it's kind of difficult to get there. But so we'll talk about it a little bit. And finally, we are going to describe an architecture that we have developed and proven in many different customers' networks that is open and you can take some inspiration from that if you so desire. So like mentioned, there is a Slido poll on the right-hand side of your screen. You can ask your questions over there as we go along. And in fact, we would like you to be part of the conversation. So as we're going through each of these topics, please do put out your suggestions, your questions, your observations, your experiences out there. So we'll be happy to take them into account as we go through this session. So please make this as interactive as possible. All right, so here's, just as an introduction before I start asking our panelists questions, is what industrial IoT at Cisco is all about. Now, of course, Cisco, we are well known for our campus networking, our branch networking, our data center networking. But what's really exciting about the industrial networking is that we really at the heart of our customers' revenue streams. Here's where the money comes from. And so we are extremely focused on how we can drive the efficiency of our customers' production systems, how we increase agility, how do we help them reduce costs, how do we help them protect critical assets and minimize downtime, of course. So very excited about this. Customers care a lot about all of these factors, and of course we do too. So without much more introduction, I'd like to start asking, and this question is for Carlos here. So Carlos, let me start with you. So when we talk about smart manufacturing, what exactly are we talking about? What are some of the leading manufacturers doing that are making their manufacturing operations smarter? And before we start, Carlos, sorry, if you can do a Slido poll, question number 1, it'll ask you about what production innovations are you considering right now. So in your manufacturing operations, are there any new initiatives that you have, any new smarter? How are you planning to make them smarter? So please write your open text answers over there. And sorry, Carlos. Now, please.
No, that's okay. Let's give the folks a little bit of time to answer that poll, and then I can start with my answer. So again, the poll is: what production innovations are you considering right now? It's on the right-hand side. Just go ahead and type that in. We're going to show some of the results. So let's talk about the considerations of a smart manufacturing network from 2 perspectives. First, let's talk about it from a traditional mentality mindset of manufacturers. Having run manufacturing companies and polled our customers around the world for the last 20 years, resiliency and agility and reliability and availability are always top of mind. They will continue to be top of mind. You need to have a factory that's constantly working, and certainly the network can't be part of bringing the factory down. So that's number 1. But with the advent of Industry 4.0, our customers are really asking for more applications and use cases of the network, as you alluded to, Vivek, right? Things around being able to do data collection and analytics and more data-based decision-making. Well, that doesn't happen with a network that's got multiple systems or disparate networks that aren't connected where you can't collect that data. They're looking for artificial intelligence solutions, machine learning solutions. They're also looking for digital twin solutions. But at the heart of it, they're also looking for security. The more things we connect and the more concerns our customers have around security breaches. There's a study that just recently was published in 2022 saying that the manufacturing sector is the #1 sector in the United States now that's the attack zone, over and above financial services. So there is a growing concern around all this level of connectivity, around how we protect the network at the same time that we create all these capabilities around innovation. Happy to, let's turn it over to you, Paul. Maybe you can, add something to that in terms of what new opportunities the network is driving for our customers.
Yeah, I was, I harken back to, back in my days, the 90s. The internet, when it's brought into certain industries and areas, drives a lot of innovation. And over the last 15, 20 years, we have, in essence, Carlos, been bringing this internet technologies into the production environments, the networking, the switching, the routing, all of the wireless access. And we bring it in a way that it's kind of, it's not natively on the internet, but we're securely integrating production environments. But we're seeing now, this wealth of innovation kind of going on where, it's already past. You should be doing predictive maintenance on most of your assets, but seeing companies actually build digital twins of the products that they make and the value that brings downstream, to those who, to the users of those, of those assets later on, to see the virtualization starting to come into this place, into this space, to see kind of like companies, Fanuc Robots is a good example, that have pivoted from just making robots to providing services and capabilities based on on the robots that they make. It's just wonderful to see kind of like all of this innovation coming into this space. Again, as you said, Carlos, it's all about increasing productivity, increasing the product, lowering downtime and costs. But this innovation is just really kind of driving lots of a change in the marketplace. It's great to see.
So Dave, I don't know if you have access to the Slido poll, but I do. And before we move on to our next question, let me just share what some of the audience members are talking about. So we got 17 replies. So digital twin was one of them. More visibility, greater visibility into what's connected into network, vibration monitoring, which is a very interesting one, streaming information, which I think you alluded to, Paul, and as it relates to the internet. So those are some of the ones that I think are quite interesting. Just want to share what the audience is thinking as well. So Vivek, I think should we go to our next question, or do we still want to have?
Sure. Yeah, I think that those were some great results that we can expect from all the new innovations that are happening. But I would imagine that none of these innovations are straightforward, right? I mean, you do need to set things up to achieve all of these fantastic benefits. So what I would like to talk about next is the kind of challenges one might see when they are gearing up for achieving all of these benefits that Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing promise. And before I ask one of our panelists to discuss that topic, I'd like to ask another question of our audience and ask them about what stage are they in implementing all of those innovations that were mentioned, that they mentioned in the first question. So I'll let that Slido poll come up. And so let me turn to you, Paul, and kind of discuss if you can talk about a bit more on the challenges and what kind of things the customer should expect before they can actually reap some benefits out of these potential innovations.
Yeah, like when I've talked to lots of customers, and one of the more frustrating challenges I think a lot of manufacturers still have to deal with is as they have adopted over the last 15 years, 20 years, the standard networking, it hasn't always been in a what I would call a really well-designed networking model. We still see lots of environments where there's this old PLC-centric networking model put in place where most of the devices are under a PLC. From a networking perspective, you can't access them, you can't see them. They're often using kind of like unmanaged network infrastructure or even in some cases hubs, and they're very brittle networks. And it's really frustrating because there's devices down there with some rich information. There's problems that they may be having, but they can't really get to the data to figure things out in their production environments. It's one of the bigger challenges. Cybersecurity is a really significant one as well, just because much of the space has not taken cybersecurity very significantly. We use this term zero trust in the IT world, and I like to counterpose a lot of times in a production environment. It's not zero trust, it's implicit trust. And that's where you see, as Carlos kind of like suggested earlier, these cybersecurity threats. And then just the long life cycle, assets are usually put in place for 5, 10, 15, 20 years in some industries. So it just takes time to kind of like move out of these, older models into newer models as they upgrade, build new factories, upgrade lines and plants and stuff. But Eric, I was going to ask you, what else have you seen with some of the customers?
I think the IIoT convergence is both a challenge and an opportunity here, but we hear most times we are asking those teams that used to work independently in silos to cooperate more as the network is converging. And they need to understand each other. So this is actually not a technology challenge, but it's more like a process culture challenge that needs to be addressed so the teams can work together and really take advantage of this innovation.
That cultural item is huge, Erica, right? I mean, it's one thing to sit back and say these teams need to work together, but humans are going to human. We don't generally, if we've not been talking for a very long time, it's just easier to continue that kind of let's not talk. And yet, when we're in a place where suddenly, it doesn't matter if the breach happens on the OT side or the IT side, the entire organization's impacted. We've got to be talking. It's a shared RF spectrum space. You can't be deploying wireless applications in the plant or on the enterprise without looking across both of those venues and saying, how do we work together? So, I'll mention those are two of the places where we kind of see it really helps to drive that IT/OT collaboration is in the security space as well as in that wireless spectrum shared RF space.
But make no mistake that IT/OT collaboration is critical, not just on the cybersecurity, but resolving all of these kind of issues. It's really clear to me, like, a lot of the networking, even these fragmented networks, an IT guy is going to go, hey, you're using a good network, make sure it's connected so we can get the information going. They're going to be, have a lot of good information about what does it mean if we can't update these products and technologies in this space. It's really clear to me, often in these environments, the guys that are making the decisions at the end of the day, that have the budgets, that, are kind of like prime in this, are the OT side. But they're never going to be successful without good collaboration from the IT side, because that's where the skills, the experience, the understanding of the technologies is there. And so it really needs to kind of come together. The customers that are doing the best, all of them, without exception, have good IT/OT collaboration going on.
Perfect. So let me let the audience weigh in on the challenges that they are facing. So audience, please respond to our question, slide a poll about the challenges that are on top of your mind. If you take a moment to respond to that, would be great. Meanwhile, we talked about IT/OT convergence, we talked about the networking visibility, skills shortage, etc. So maybe it's a good time to segue into that. So let me ask you, Erica, what are the key characteristics of the network and how you can best set up your network to leverage all of these new innovations that we just spoke about?
Yeah, so I think the key characteristics of the networks are what I call the 3S, that you have to be secure, it has to be scalable, and it has to be simple. Those are the things that we are always hearing back from our customers. That's what they want, and that's really the way to operate if you want to make this network future-proof. So I think we will have the chance to discuss security in a later question in your agenda. So I will focus on simplicity and scalability. So how do we build a simple network that can be, and I'm speaking about the IT or OT challenge, can we provide tools for both OT and IT that are simple to use so they can monitor the network, they can maybe find problems before before we see the symptoms of them. We can automate tasks. So something that was manual before, we can reduce human error, and we can make sure we can automate it and build things at a scale faster, and but that reducing downtime and reducing cost, right? So that's key for the simplicity. And I think what we can do is to provide those tools that are easy and intuitive to use for both our users, the OT and IT users. On the scalability part, I think we need to work towards a model of software-defined networking in which we, with the simple and with the network that is already in place, we can build on bringing new functionality with intent without reconfiguring the network, without adding new hardware. So we need to work towards that. There is something that I always hear David saying that it is the network is always guilty until we can prove that it's innocent. And we have seen on customers, whenever there is a problem, they need to take everything down or when something down, replace a switch and see if that comes online, cross the fingers and see if that comes online. So I think we need to change that mindset also. And I want to ask David, what are we doing to change that mindset from the customers?
Question. I mean, I think it starts first of all with, you know, IT really bringing the visibility capabilities of the network, not just to kind of the traditional network operations side of the house, but also, you know, we can take that same visibility and provide it to the process side of the house, the OT side of the house. You know, we have the capability with some of our solutions like CyberVision, for instance, to, you know, tell process operations, hey, you know, you want to know why the shift last night stopped successfully, but the shift this morning didn't. It looks like somebody made a program change, or it looks like somebody may have made a change in a cell that's impacting that line, and that's where you're seeing a problem. Or at the very least, providing visibility to help operations understand where it's not. And that, in a lot of cases, is enough to really get to the heart of, I'm going to call it, you know, beginning to troubleshoot something that went on, instead of saying, wait, we don't even know where to start. All we know is that this, you know, I'm going to call it, you know, line or machine or process is not functional. Stack lights are red across the board. And instead being able to say, well, they may be red across the board, but it doesn't look like it's the network. It doesn't look like anybody made a change last evening. And that can really help reduce that overall amount of troubleshooting time. And therefore, we may not be able to prevent that piece of unplanned downtime, but we can certainly help reduce it. So in that case, the visibility of the network is actually directly helping reduce that unplanned downtime. And I think that's certainly one way we begin to kind of, you know, change that mindset of, as soon as something happens, that network is guilty until proven innocent.
You know, a couple of points I think I just like to chime in, right? So, you know, visiting my customers, you know, they have mastered flexible manufacturing. And the reason they've done that is because of you and I, all of us on this call. We are constantly demanding new products and customization in our products, right? You want a blue one with this feature, and I want a green one with that feature. And that has caused our customers to really become masters at flexible manufacturing. But sometimes, in some of those instances, they haven't mastered the ability to make the network flexible. And this level of agility and all the things that you talked about, Erica, in terms of management, flex, and simplicity and built-in security, really make me think that, you know, the future is software-defined networking. So software-defined networking and the ability to manage these things on a single pane of glass, I think, is quite powerful. Isn't that where most of our customers are going?
Moving that lot size of one, right?
Yeah.
Carlos, moving that lot size of one capability from, to your point, us as consumers are demanding the thing I'm buying is custom, moving that same capability kind of into the network definition side of the house. Yeah, 100%.
And all those feature sets help with, you know, from a network standpoint, all those cool, great things really provide for that futuristic, ideal state of software-defined networking.
Perfect. So we received some answers about what stage are people in their journey towards Industry 4.0, and there are several who said they haven't started yet, or don't know where to start, and many in the planning and brainstorming. So I hope you know, today's session will give you some pointers on how to go about doing it. But there are a few people who are actually in the implementation, execution, and there's some people who are already seeing the benefits and they're optimizing. So for those folks, I really request you to put down, on Slido as to what has helped you to get to where you are. What kind of techniques you use, so we can all sort of collectively learn from you. Also,
I was going to say, Vivek, we got an interesting question in from Sal asking about lossless resiliency protocols. PRP, REP, PTP, HSR. PTP is more about time synchronization, but PRP is definitely there. But I just wanted to comment. Yeah, I think these protocols, these capabilities are very relevant to industrial networks. We support in our network infrastructure, basically all of those different technologies. We support them over rings, redundant stars, concentric rings, all kinds of different things. Erica spends a significant portion of her life testing these protocols and making sure that they work as we, as our customers would be expecting them to. So yeah, I do think they're still they are very valuable. Some environments, don't necessarily use all of them if depending on how the operations is set up and designed. But there are very critical production environments that deploy these technologies, and we will be continuing to support them well into the future. So yeah, they're pretty important.
Excellent. So again, audience, we have this great panel of experts, so do put down your observations or questions. But let me now turn towards the another major concern that we hear from everybody, and that's self-evident actually. If you just look at some of the industry press, you will see all kinds of, recently Clorox, for example, had to shut down some of their operations because of cybersecurity issues. So let's focus on security concerns. So clearly, if something is connected, it needs to be protected. So let me turn to you, David, now, and if you could tell us, you work with a lot of customers. You are hands-on with a bunch of them. So what are they doing to protect their operations?
That's a great question, Vivek. And this is the old, what I'm going to call it the fight, right? The most secure system is locked in a closet, powered off, turned off with the key thrown away, but it's completely not useful. Suddenly, hey, we want to get more results from data and be able to build those digital twins of our lines that you heard mentioned from Carlos and those of you folks out there that are listening to the webinar earlier. So we've got to find that right balance. And in a lot of cases, we're connecting assets that I think Paul mentioned earlier, right, are 10, 15, 20 years old that have vulnerabilities that we're never going to be able to patch. So the first thing is, right, that network becomes really, in those cases, those legacy assets, both the first and the last line of defense for those assets. And so we've got to bring the network to the table. And so the very first thing, right, is, I mentioned it earlier, is let's bring the visibility that the network has to the table to understand what does normal look like, what's good, what's bad, who's talking to what, what's talking to what's normal from a conversation standpoint. And we can use that information that we now understand to be able to inform our rule sets, our segmentation policies, our micro-segmentation policies. Legacy assets are in some cases difficult to secure because an OEM that used to have made that machine, isn't supporting it anymore now, just maintenance is. And now we're concerned like, hey, if we're going to collect data off of this, what do we do? And so bringing the network to the table to micro-segment parts of that machine or that process without address changes, that's a huge capability that the network, can bring to the table. And then, being able to define those zones and conduits to be able to help, better understand, and classify systems where they're supposed to be and from a a level standpoint within that Purdue model. And then that visibility gives us the ability now suddenly to, again, detect what normal and abnormal looks like, respond potentially to something that's abnormal as a threat and react accordingly. And once we have kind of what normal looks like, we can enable now things such as remote access and similar for our OEMs, for our maintenance departments, and similar, even again to legacy assets that potentially have a whole host of vulnerabilities that we can't patch directly. But Paul, you've been out there for a long time. I mean, how do you see this? What didn't I chat about, or what didn't I bring up?
Again, like on the cybersecurity, it's it's a journey. This is a big problem. The ecosystem is only just starting to adopt, good technology practices in the way the PLCs talk to their devices and the protocols and all of that. They're just starting, and it's going to take time for. There's so many vendors in this space. It's going to take a long time to see a lot of this kind of come in. And to be really honest, like, the network is probably the easiest and best place to get started with cybersecurity concepts. Let it become, your cybersecurity sensor. Let it become a form of this zero trust by enabling macro and micro segmentation in the network, managing, who can talk to who, and all of that. So with that visibility, get a sense of what's on the network, who's talking to who, and then start moving into this segmentation, and then integrating all of that into your corporate cybersecurity models. I think we're going to make that hopefully a lot easier with our latest acquisition of Splunk. I'm very excited about the opportunities, especially for this space, in terms of what Splunk is going to provide. But that's I think that's kind of like what we're working with a lot of customers on right now.
I want to do some emphasis in something, and it's in security. It's very important that we can use the network as a sensor and the network as an enforcement. So not introducing new mobile parts that may add more overhead into a network, but how we can use the network itself to perform those functions.
Very good point, Erica. All right, thank you, panelists. I see a lot of questions about some detailed questions about network and how to set things up. And I'm going to defer them and ask the panelists to take them up when we are actually talking about our architecture. So panelists, please make a note of them and see if how we can address them at the right time. Meanwhile, I have another question for our audience, if they would like to be contacted by Cisco Sales. So please do check those boxes, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you. Now, moving on to the next topic that we had, and making good progress, by the way, thank you, about leveraging cloud applications. Now, what, in my experience, manufacturers are usually reluctant to connect their operations to the cloud because they're worried about issues of delay, obviously security, jitter, packet loss, etc. They cannot really rely on the cloud to give them real-time information that they can actually use. So let me turn now back to you, Carlos, as to what the network can do to help. If you can talk about that.
Well, yeah. So first off, I think everyone should be realistic and know that the cloud is coming, and it's already here, and a lot of people have already migrated a lot of their application workloads to the cloud. But manufacturers can have a say-so in that. So, you want to place critical applications that you need for manufacturing close to production. Those where you have historian information for whatever your production cycles are, whether that's a day's worth of production orders or a month's worth of production orders, in your historian, maybe that application for ERP can be hosted in the cloud because you've got that information available to you should something go wrong and you need to run back down locally at the edge. So that's kind of a decision criteria that you can use for what we would call critical operations versus non-critical workloads. Not to mention then you can start to evaluate those workloads based on security. So if you don't have the security framework that Erica was highlighting and everyone else was commenting on, then maybe you're not ready to start migrating workloads to the cloud. So first it's about, which ones you need critical for production close to you with assessing things like, availability of information and the work orders for running your day-to-day operations, not to mention speed of response. So maybe you don't want a certain application to the cloud because you need real-time information. You can't wait for any kind of latency or deal with any kind of latency associated with moving data back and forth to the cloud. And then the other one is around segmentation for manufacturing operations, right? What are those that you don't really want to have in the cloud for security reasons because you don't have the right security or segmentation policies in place. But one of the things that we're even starting to see that Paul, you can certainly comment on this because we're working, in some instances with some people, and that is this notion, which we were thinking about 10 years ago, and that was virtualizing factory floor applications such as MES. We think about thin clients. We were thinking about thin clients many, many years ago. So we could remove factory floor servers. I could still walk around factory floors today, and I will see a server of whatever brand or manufacturer on the factory floor running applications, whether that's QC, quality control, or whether that's hosting an ERP instance, or even part of an MES that's customized by the customer and it's not centrally distributed. And it boggles my mind when we have all this ability to leverage cloud functionality as well as high performance compute in a compute environment, even in the factory. So virtualization of hardware is starting to take place. That's people who are on the forefront of using the cloud. So, I mean, that's a unique thing. And Paul, I mean, any comments there of how that happens? It's not easy, right? So to do virtualization.
Virtualization is a challenge in the environment, as you said. Latency, resiliency are key considerations if you're trying to bring some of those technologies in. But more and more, I've been seeing customers, kind of come up with cloud priority approaches where not everything can go to the cloud, but some applications can. Things that are less time sensitive or less resiliency critical, configuration, for example, manufacturing execution. The cloud provides such great opportunity to the idea of you've got hardware ready to go. You have easily upgradable software. All of those kind of things are also features that would be very valuable in a production, environment. Trying to, keep up to date with all of the versions and cybersecurity, let's say updates and upgrades in these environments. And what we're seeing is, some things are definitely going to the cloud, like the digital twin, gathering this information for digital twin kind of considerations. That's going to be, a pretty cloud native kind of approach. But where things kind of get a little bit more interesting is if you do want to start using this cloud capability, bringing it closer to the production environment. One of our customers refers to it as edge cloud for production. Can also provide a lot of value too in terms of trying to virtualize or digitize some of these other applications that are more time sensitive and more resiliency sensitive. So we have some customers that are kind of considering how to bring those capabilities. It's no longer quote in the cloud because it is local in some ways, but bringing that whole set of capabilities that represent, cloud applications closer to the factory so that they can get a lot of this cloud, let's say, benefits.
All right, perfect. I want to keep some time available for our next couple of things, so I'm going to have to move along here. Again, there are some questions, panelists. Please take note and see if it's the right opportunity. But what really is, now that we talked about several of the things that people have to do, but the question remains is, how do people get started? I mean, it's good to learn all of these things you can do and what exists out there already. So again, let me turn to you, David, again. You work with a lot of customers, and you have guided them through this process many times. So I'd like to lean on your experience as to how should customers get started? How do people try to get started on modernizing their network? And if you can give some example, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question, Vivek. Right? It's the old adage of how do you eat the elephant? Right? Eat the elephant one bite at a time. But okay, start small. What do we start with, and where do we start? Right. So first, you kind of heard it earlier. A number of us have talked about it. And that is, the culture part of this, that getting IT and OT to begin to collaborate and talk with one another is absolutely key part and parcel. I think Paul said it earlier. We look at our base of successful customers that have done this and have gotten started on the proper foot. That IT-OT collaboration is absolutely critical. And I'll add, some examples from my background and what I've seen, and that is starting this early before kind of you go down the technology road is really key. So, beginning to put, IT support folks and maintenance support folks, controls folks, et cetera, in, let's say, areas where they may begin to collaborate organically is key, if that's possible. So, maybe instead of building out an IT support cube farm and a controls engineering support cube farm, et cetera, let's commingle those folks. Let's make sure they're running into one another on their day-to-day, day-to-day world. So certainly starting there. Secondly, agreeing early on what success looks like in business language. So what are those key performance indicators, those KPIs? What does success look like? Keeping what I'll call scope creep from leaking out too much and everybody what I'm going to call having almost like delusions of grandeur, thinking success is everybody's got this, this is going to be amazing. Let's get specific on them so they're measurable, and then starting where it's easiest. So take a process or a line or a factory that, potentially is more open or amiable to, starting something new, seeing something new. Those that have the individuals that, let's say, have better relationships between IT and OT, go to those places. Look at and talk to your experts that, there's always bridges that are being built at the, at both the ground level as well as what I'll call middle management and in your executive ranks. Look at where those bridges are being built and then find those common areas to certainly begin with. And then taking that, looking at coming up with kind of that North Star reference architecture, take our industrial automation, manufacturing validated designs and come up with a version, we're happy to work with you, come up with a version for you that you can kind of point to as you proceed forward and say, that's where we're going. So I think those are definitely some of the areas that I would recommend starting with. But Carlos, do you have anything to add here potentially as to where folks might be able to get started?
Just an anecdote, right, relative to what I've seen works in successful deployments. And that is, it starts off with, I think, start small, but think big. So here's what I'm finding, that a lot of our customers have started small, but they never really planned that plan, like the reference architecture that you were talking about. What is that North Star? So in the process, they end up with a whole bunch of pilots or POCs. And right now they're finding themselves in POC. I use the term POC purgatory.
Right.
They can't get out of this mode. So when you're doing one of these pilots, so starting small, you have to think about the next step because you will be successful. If you're any kind of well-organized company, we have a lot of great customers here and a lot of great companies represented here. You're not here because by accident. You got here for a reason. You have it within you to achieve this. And in doing so, I think you need to just plan that when you have success, how will you be able to expand that success? What part of your POC will be the linchpin to be able to grow out to the next production line, to the next factory, and across the entire wide area network at scale? So that's what I say. Start small, but think big when you do it.
All right, that's great. Now let's turn to some actual architectures that we have proven, and David, you mentioned about validated designs. And I'll turn to Erica for this because she works with a lot with networks and she runs a lab where she does a lot of proof of concept testing. So Erica, would you step us through some of these architectures that you developed and actually proven in the field?
Thanks, Vivek. Yeah, so first I want to start with a question from the audience. They were asking if we have only a single solution product bundle that covers smart manufacturing, or if it is a solution complete consisting of X amount of solutions. And the question also includes if we are managing from one interfaces or we need multiple interfaces. So I will start by the first part of the question. Is it a single product? It is a multiple product, multiple solutions. So we understand that to provide this network, we need different network components. We need sometimes different switches depending on the scale. We need security products, and we need sometimes partner equipment. So we get to interact with the customers and understand what are their needs, and take all the products that from the IoT and also from the larger Cisco and even from partners and put them together into a solution. So this is designed, but then is tested in our labs. We take extreme proud of our lab because it's a big investment for Cisco. We have a real life customer lab where we use real OT equipment. We use real OT protocols. You will see devices from Siemens, from Rockwell, Schneider, Mitsubishi in our lab. And we use protocols such as Profinet and SIP, and we validate with those. So we are confident that whenever we recommend a solution, you can use it as a blueprint and put in with the confidence that someone has validated that, and you are not guessing if it will work or not. For example, there is another question on the audience that was already answered about if PRP will work in different topologies. So that's the kind of question we go through the CVDs with the Cisco validated designs and try to document it as much as we can so you can deploy them with confidence with the best practices caveats. So what you are seeing there is we start by the bottom. What are the needs on the factory floor? And we put that, how you will connect then devices to it in a resilient way, how we add security to it, visibility, all the elements we have talked about, wireless. And then we build upon how you connect this into a network that can support this convergence, IT-OT convergence. So if you show the larger topology, we build this with industry practices, such as how can we put this using the Purdue model of automation and control. So it follows these best practices, is secure, and how do we add the different elements you will need to run your operations in a secure way and a scalable way. And now I want to address that part of the question about do you need to you manage this from a single interface or many. So now we have Cisco Catalyst Center, and with Cisco Catalyst Center, we are managing all these network devices from a single pane of glass. We have automation and assurance capabilities, security policies, all built into Cisco Catalyst Center. I know Paul has been working also in CVDs for a long time, so I want to pass this to him, and maybe if you can cover a little bit of the wireless. I saw a lot of wireless interest on the chat.
Sure. One thing I do want to kind of like highlight with all of our work here, and what's really important, and one of the things Erica, in terms of testing all of this, make sure of is we connect all of the devices natively to the network, right? We don't try to hide or connect them, strictly to a PLC or other things. Everything is connected to the network basically because we feel all of these devices are pretty darn intelligent, pretty valuable information coming from them. Only a bit of that information is actually used by the PLCs and controllers in this space, or even the HMIs. But there's a lot of rich information that can improve, yield in a production facility, uptime, can provide better product quality. And that's, so the key thing is we want to connect these things securely, but to a network, so that you can get to the data, right? We'll connect it through, the wired infrastructure, the wireless infrastructure. We now are even capable of providing kind of like some very ultra reliable wireless backhaul capabilities into this environment, kind of like Wi-Fi based capabilities there that provide those nomadic, moving, autonomous vehicles in the production environment, to provide them with very reliable, consistent, low latency wireless connectivity that's often critical. But we're going to connect everything in the plant and put it on a secure network so that you can have access to the data. Our tools around DNA Catalyst Center, I was about to say DNAC, but we're switching names. Catalyst Center to help manage and monitor the environment, to automate the deployment is critical. Identity services to help apply security policy into it. But we make sure we put all of this together with equipment from Rockwell, Siemens, Schneider Electric, Mitsubishi, many others in our lab, and make sure our concepts and models are going to work for those applications, for those protocols, for those vendor environments, and test it out to give you the confidence that you can deploy these networks and make them work.
And one thing I want to highlight is when you build this with confidence, we are also building the network of the future. So we are making sure this can scale and grow later on. So there is a protection on your investment. Whenever you deploy this, you know that you can enable all the features, security, visibility, all of that. Even if you start with the brownfield network and you are just adding one piece, as you grow on this, the idea is that the capabilities can be enabled as you go, as a journey.
Excellent. So, audience, this diagram you can find in some of our reference material that I'm just going to go over. So here's where all of these diagrams, along with all of the text and and probably answer most of the questions that you had. So what we were just talking about is documented in Cisco validated designs for digital manufacturing. It not only does the network architecture, but it shows you mobility part, the switching part, the security part. Everything is very comprehensively documented in many of the design guides that you will see on here. In the middle is our web page for IoT solutions. Here you can find the solutions we have, products we have, as well as several resources, to better inform you. On the right-hand side, we have a whole portfolio for manufacturing, and it goes from not just the factory floor, but it covers supply chain operations, certainly manufacturing operations, but workforce enablement, security and safety, and as well as sustainable operations as well, which is which we didn't cover in this call, but this is we understand that it's very important to a lot of you. So be sure to check it out. I know you cannot click on all of those links that I provided at the bottom, but I think those will be provided to you on chat on Slido. So please make sure to copy and save them, or it's just easy to find. You can just search them on Google and you will come to the right place. So being mindful of time, I'd like to close this. Any further comments? But before I go, I'd like to thank you to all the panelists who took this time and contributed with their expertise. And I thank all the audience. Hope this hour that you spent with us was informative and useful to you. Before we leave, please, you will see an exit survey once you close the WebEx window. Just take a minute to give us your feedback on the overall thing and your thoughts on future sessions. What we can cover more in detail in upcoming future. So we are right at the top of the hour. If there's any parting comments that any of our panelists would like to make, this is an opportunity to do so. But otherwise, thank you very much, and we'll see you in a future session.
And just thank you everybody for your time. Have a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, and night.
Everyone.
Excellent. Thank you.